Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Writers Chat. We're so glad to be with you this Tuesday morning. I'm Johnny Alexander. I'm joined by my co-host, Melissa Stroh. And Melissa is going to introduce our very, very special guest today.
Hi, everybody. We're glad to have you back and so excited to have our special guest today. For those of you who do not know, we have Dr. Katherine Hutchinson-Hayes with us today, and she is an editor, author, speaker, and educational consultant. Katherine hosts the podcast Murder, Mystery, and Mayhem Laced with Morality, and she's authored a Christian Bible study and is working on the sequel to her first general market thriller, A Fifth of the Story, which debuts February 27th, 2024. And today she's going to talk to us about crafting thrillers and the magic of mentorship, and we're really excited about it. This is a new topic that we haven't heard about. And so welcome, Katherine. We're just excited to have you here. It's great to see you.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. There's nothing an author loves more than to geek out with fellow people who love to read and write. So this is our wonderful safe space, and I appreciate being here. Yeah,
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So I think maybe I'll get ready to do. What would you prefer, crafting thrillers or mentorships?
Ooh, I'll leave it up to you.
I'm going to do both. I just want to know which one is better to go first.
Well, as a fiction writer, I have to put them in my 2 cents for the thrillers because that one's just exciting to me. I'd love to hear about that one first.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, great. All right, let's do it. So this one I won't share because I'm going to do a PDF, like a template as a giveaway for after this, that people can upload and grab the template. But first of all, I want to say, if you like to read thrillers or watch thrilling movies and all of that, you can do it. I went from a devotional writing, Bible study writing girl to a thriller girl. And if I can do it, you can do it. Okay. I don't even like to kill flies. And so you will not believe the stuff I write in these books. I think Rachel and Becky might know, but anyway, there are 7 main steps in a thriller. So the first thing I want you to think about is 7 and then 3. So the first part of writing a thriller is you have to create your characters. And we as authors, we are observant. We're always looking at people. We love to eavesdrop, not in a nasty way, but we're always looking for interesting ways to do organic dialogue, interesting characters. And so it's great to people watch and to know your character. So you create your list of characters. And that's number 1. And then 2, you want to start with the action. So no matter how you start, if you're a pantser or a plotter, or what is it, a plantser, which I'm a plantser, you, no matter what, don't start with the backstory. Don't give us all of the other stuff, the fluff. Just start with the action. And so that's number 2, start with the action. Number 1, create your characters. Number 2, start with the action. And then number 3, raise the stakes. I feel so bad for my characters and the positions that I put them in. And because I'm a plantser, I often put my characters in positions where I don't know how they're going to get out. I'm like, why did I do this to this character? I don't know how they're going to get out of this. This is really bad. And when you start feeling bad for your characters, you know you are in a good place. And I'll tell you what, even if you are a plotter, it helps to be a little bit of a pantser, because what you do is you create plot twists that nobody saw coming. Why? Because you didn't see it coming. One person that helped me with this was Stephen James. I love Stephen James. He is really not advertised as a Christian author, but he writes clean. So you're not going to see gratuitous sex or violence in his books and 4-letter words, but he writes authentically. He doesn't pretend we live in the real world. So he might start out with the bar scene. He might say someone is drinking and using bad language, but he's not glorifying it, and he is not putting it on a pedestal. But what he does is he writes very real. So I feel that his type of writing would be picked up by anyone, but there's always seeds of truth in it, seeds of the gospel. If you really see, read through and get that. And so I love that. But I met with him and I was having an issue, and I was like, Stephen, my characters are doing things I never planned. I didn't know this was who they were and this is what they're doing. And he was like, go with it. Because he's like, that is a great story where your characters now are really developed. Where now they're not even listening to you, go with it. So he helped me to get out of the box and become more of the pantser that I now am. Okay, so number 4, create obstacles. There is a scene in the opening of my prequel to the book that I've written, a fifth of the story. And in the opening scene, there's a character, she's an FBI agent, and she's on a dangerous mission. And her getaway is a window, and she opens a window to make sure she can get away and all of that. And the window slams shut and it's sealed and she can't get out, and she's backed into a corner. So you see, and then there are guns, there are people trying to get into this office space. What does she do? I didn't know what she was going to do, but anyway, when you read it, you see she figures it out. So you create obstacles. You put them in a corner and you back them up against a wall, and you would be shocked at how creative you really are. It's a great exercise to show us how to write ourselves out of a corner. I'm sure you've heard that before. And then number 5, write many plot twists. So some of you who are really good plotters, you plot out those plot twists, and you have these little sub stories going on. So if you like romantic suspense, and this prequel is sort of turning into a romantic suspense, and so what I have is the love story in the background, and the stakes are raised when it comes to that, because this particular character has a failed marriage. She's got child loss. She's got a lot of different things going on. She's got her father she's worried about, who's in a high political office, all of these different things. And you can use those different subplots to create different twists and to continue to paint your protagonist into a corner. The other thing is number 6 is create the climax. So there's got to be this one point that this author is getting to, not author, the protagonist is trying to get to. And so you've got to create that big moment, the big moment on the screen where things all come to a head, and it often it's going to make or break your characters, right? So that's when we're going to see the ultimate fight between the antagonist and the protagonist. And throughout the whole time, you're really having that protagonist work to reach their goal. Let's say your protagonist, they're like in a fifth of the story, my protagonist, he is working to get a family out of literally a burning skyscraper, right? Because it becomes the site of a terrorist attack. And his best friend's family, he's there protecting 2 little children, his best friend's wife, and the mother. And the stakes are high, especially when children are involved. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't ever kill the kids or the animals. And so the stakes get higher and higher, and then you create this ultimate climax where even the reader is becoming concerned. Like, they're like, is this protagonist really going to make it out? I think the antagonist is going to win. And so things have got to come to that head. And you'll see that with my main character, Brock, and this other character, that they have this ultimate, they actually have a face off, and then you find out what was behind the antagonist, what was their goal, and things just kind of unfold in the climax. We have to have a climax. And then 7, you create a strong ending. Be sure that your ending is satisfying. It doesn't have to be a happy ending, but it's important for it to be strong. You ever go to a movie and the ending was just, it just feels like the author just slapped it together. It doesn't make sense. So we don't want that in our own books. We want to make sure that we tie everything up with a bow. We don't leave loose ends. The only time you want to leave a loose end, like a cliffhanger, is if you're going to write a sequel, or even a prequel. And so you may have those little breadcrumbs, even when you go and see a movie, like my family and I just went to see this movie, and the way that they left the ending, we're like, we could see where there's room to tell more. There are a few questions that we have, and you could see there's room for the next part of the story. So the other thing that we have to remember is that thrillers have different subgenres. Some popular subgenres are romantic suspense or romantic thrillers. One of my favorites in that genre is Diane Mills and Lynette Eason. They're just excellent at crafting romantic thrillers. They're also supernatural, and that's something that's now crossed over into the Christian writing industry, as long as it's done right. There's historical thrillers and mysteries. There's psychological thrillers. There's one of my favorite authors in psychological thrillers is Stephen James, and there's another one. She's not vetted as a Christian author, but she's a very good author, is Kirsten Margolin. Also legal thrillers. I love a legal thriller because the whole courtroom scene, and there's so many great dynamics in that. Crime thrillers. There's again, like I said before, romantic thrillers, political thrillers, something that's becoming really popular now because of all the hot things we've got going on in politics. There's so much to write about. And then espionage. I love espionage, and you can kind of mix it up a little bit, because my books would tend to be a little bit of espionage, psychological thriller, and so you can kind of mix those different genres together. But that is the 7 steps of writing a thriller. At this time, does anyone have any questions or anything to add?
Oh, I'm looking. There's a lot of comments going on. I'm trying to discern questions from comments.
I was going to ask if, when you talk about mystery, suspense, thriller, people, they are kind of lumped all together, and yet there are those subtle differences. So how would you define thriller versus like mystery or just suspense?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. Thank you. And you're right. It's all kind of lumped together, but there are distinct differences. So the thriller, it's moved forward mostly by the protagonists themselves, and so that's where you'll see there's a sleuth or a detective. My most fun things are when you see the amateur detective or the accidental detective. Those are really fun, and so they're constantly following the case. They're constantly uncovering clues and going after the answers, and their actions will keep the pace of the story. So it's really centralized on the protagonist, and the central crime is always, guess what? A murder, right? And the killer is not discovered until the end. So that's really in a nutshell. There are many genres of mysteries as well. And then a thriller, how it's distinctly different is it's primarily, the action is driven primarily by the protagonist, but it's because of things that the protagonist cannot control. So lots of things are out of their control. And that's why it's so much fun to keep on raising the stakes and have exterior things impact them. Like I was telling you before about the window, just like sealing, like you're like, really, this is out of this person's control. Outside circumstances and the decisions of others will really play a much bigger role. So you get to have lots of fun with your your antagonist, because they will greatly impact the actions of that protagonist. And most of your time, the protagonist will only be able to react to these things rather than dictate how they go. And so it doesn't have to necessarily be a murder, although a lot of times there is a murder. However, there's a crime or evil, and then the perpetrator is often known. So sometimes there's not that discovery at the end. How you can really mix it up and make a really exciting thriller is you can have the perpetrator not known, and then you kind of try to have you as the protagonist is trying to figure it out, so is the reader, and then that's when you get to put in your red herrings and all of that good stuff. So like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be a murder, but there has to be a crime or some kind of force of evil. And the point of the story is not really the discovery of their identity, but rather to take this entity down. And so in that story, you'll be after clues, you'll be after the proper solution, answers, and how each protagonist ends up where they are going to be. It's through the circumstances that they find themselves. And so it's a really great way for you to also show where your protagonist has grown. If you notice in like a mystery series, the protagonist sort of kind of stays the same as a person, but in a thriller, you get to really reveal. They have this coming of age moment, right, where who they are really is revealed. Whatever, and sometimes you can really play on that by building in their backstory. Like maybe there's maybe somebody was an alcoholic and it's a horrible secret that they're carrying the whole time, and it makes them react to everything because of this secret. And then finally maybe they have this aha moment where they're not going to be defined by judgment anymore. They realize they have overcome and all of that. So you are also watching the growth of the protagonist, and that's a lot of fun to do. And make them flawed and imperfect, but lovable.
That's true for all characters, right? Yeah, they need to be flawed, but lovable. Melissa, did you have a question?
I was curious, would you say that there's a definite distinction then too in how you develop the antagonist in a thriller versus a suspense or other subgenre?
That's a good
Say
question.
that again, I'm sorry.
What makes the antagonist different? How would you develop the antagonist in a thriller versus these other subgenres? Is there any distinction there? Are they pretty close?
So in a mystery, I personally feel that in a lot of ways you can see more of maybe the antagonist changing, but in a mystery, like your sleuth, your detective, they're kind of a steady person, but your antagonist can kind of change. You can maybe see that person morphing. Sometimes you'll see in a mystery where the antagonist is almost becoming a good person, and then of course they're not, you find out they're the murderer or whatever. But there's a lot of fun that you can have with that. Now for the thriller, that protagonist is the one who's really growing and changing and developing. And the most interesting protagonists are the ones that are really flawed. Yes, they have endearing qualities about them. We're rooting for them, but we also know that they're deeply flawed. I relate best to characters like that because I'm deeply flawed, and I don't want a perfect Patty as a hero. I want them to have good redeeming qualities about them, and I want to see them make it, but I don't want them to be perfect. And then I don't want an antagonist that's completely evil. It is really wonderful when you have an antagonist. Like there's the antagonist in my first book, A Fifth of the Story, I love this guy so much. I'm so mad that he's so bad because there's so many great things about him. And so develop your antagonist where you almost, as a reader, you might be like, I just can't wait. You know how, you've done a good job when the person's like, I can't wait till this person's dead because they're so bad. They're doing the most. But you also want to be like, gosh, I see why they became like that. Their childhood really was messed up. They were really bullied. Oh my gosh, they were a victim of a crime. So you want to be able to create deeply flawed characters in your protagonist with great redeeming qualities. And then you also want to create an antagonist, as wicked and evil as they are, with great qualities about them, very likable, believable qualities about them, because that's how it works in reality. The bad guy is not 100% bad. The serial killer could be great with animals, very gentle with children, but then he's doing the most at, he's taking out people that he hates, and then maybe we find out that he was tortured by his stepfather. So he looks to go after all these bad people he perceives as bad stepfathers, So even though you're like, why is he doing this? And you find out, oh my gosh, this is what happened to him. So that would be an example of how to create a character like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is well, those are such great questions. I forgot to say, often when I'm editing, I find this, and I know that reporting back to publishing houses that this is a no-no. Thrillers are all about action and pace. The story is constantly moving forward, and your reader is always on the edge of their seat. So you want to avoid anything that will slow or even break the pacing of the story. And I've seen people do lots of dreams and flashbacks as a way to tell or give the reader information, and that's okay, but you sprinkle it like you would sprinkle some cayenne pepper on a dish. You don't inundate the story with all of that, because they poke a hole in the tension, and you don't want to do that. So that was one thing I forgot to mention.
That's good too.
It's more about
I was thinking when you were talking about the antagonist, and sometimes there's the mystery of who that is, that a technique that I've seen some authors use is they give the antagonist a nickname, so that even when they're from that person's point of view, people are referring to him or her as this nickname. So you still don't know who that person really is. So that can be a good little technique for hiding the identity, if that's what you're wanting to do in your story. I mean, you don't have to.
Yes. No, that's a good one.
Yeah, I think
I love that. They especially effective in a psychological thriller.
Yeah,
that is an excellent technique. Yeah.
Really
yeah.
I
love the story. Yes.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I said I love the stories where you're so thrown because you were not thinking it was that person, and then it was because of that nickname. I love that. That's it's a really good point.
I wrote down notes series, so I think I had a question about series, and now I don't remember exactly what it was. But so it must have been, are you writing? You mentioned a prequel, so what do you think is kind of best? Is it to create a protagonist who's going to then go through several stories, or do you prefer standalones? Maybe just I don't know.
I like them all, but I really love series, because if you do a good job in creating these characters, you don't want to break up with them, and neither do your readers. They want more.
Yeah.
And you will find in crafting your thrillers, and any story for that matter, you start out with this list of characters, and then sometimes they're characters that were minor characters that are like, no, I want to be central. Because this one character, she started out as a name. I wasn't even going to bring her onto the stage. And I found myself writing more and more and more about her. And I'm like, she's kind of setting the stage to be in the next book. And sure enough, she's the star. I'm like, her backstory needs to be told. She's way too interesting for me to just put her in a corner. So standalone, maybe there's this one, maybe. So let me show you how a standalone might work. Let's say you have, there's something, a really interesting story. Here, like I'm thinking about a story in my neighborhood. I would kind of like to write it, something creepy that happened, but I would love to take that and make that a story. That's just an incident, and it's revolving a really interesting, dark but interesting incident, and that could be that standalone story. But when you create these list of characters that you fall in love with, and like I was saying before, some of them are begging to come on stage, and you allow them to do that, you can really create buy-in with your audience, your readers. And that's why I mentioned Kirsten Moglin. If for nothing else, look at that girl's platform and look at how she engages her audience. People are in love with her characters. Because you see that they're interwoven in a lot of her different stories. So sometimes they're not necessarily sequels, but her characters, a lot of times they're related. So they might have one story here and another story here, but these characters know each other. They live in the same pretend world. And so it's a great way also to market yourself if you're looking to be traditionally published, because publishers love series because they sell.
Yeah.
And so, then it's great for you because you create longevity. How wonderful if they love your book and then they're like, hey, do you have anything else? And you're like, by the way, yes, even if it's an outline.
Yeah.
This is what you do. You create that. You create a scenario where you have longevity by then having other books where you can feature the rest of the story.
I love that. I love that. All right. Well, I guess we better move on to mentorship. We got about another half hour for that. But this was wonderful. I did want to ask the person you just mentioned, how do you spell her last name? Could we put her name in the chat? It was Chris.
Yeah, it's Kirsten Moglin. It's Moglin.
And is it Kirsten or Kristen?
Kirsten. I have her book right here. It's Kiersten. Moglin. Modglin. She's actually going to be on my podcast.
Oh, really?
Shortly.
Okay, well, I misspelled her last name even as I did it. Thank you, Melissa. So Melissa's got it right. That's the one you want to look for.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome. All right. So I'm going to now share my screen.
So that was wonderful, Katherine. Thank you for all that about thriller. I'm excited.
Yes. Thank you. And I'm excited to share the template. I have more that I wanted to talk about, but I'll be able to share it with you on the template. Okay. So now completely switching gears. Okay. Can you see that screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, so I'm not going to sit here and bore you with a long, I'm not going to read this to you, put it that way. I'm not going to sit here and read this to you, but it's a great guide, and I will have it available to those who are interested. I'll make sure that you guys can grab it because it's 12 pages, so I'm not going to read everything on here. But I love mentorship so much, and I did not start out in the literary field, although now I'm working full-time in publishing as an editor, a book coach. I speak, I do lots of teaching, and I'm excited to be at Florida Christian Writers Conference for all those who are going to be there. Whoop, whoop. And anyway, mentorship I could see early on, even as a teacher. I started out as a teacher, and I still remember things about the mentors in my life, the teachers that helped shape me as an educator. That was an important part of becoming a teacher. And then when I became a principal, the mentoring part was equally as important to help me get into the principalship. And then when I became a principal, actually, when I became a teacher, I had a ton of teachers who came into my classroom, and I was able to mentor them. And then as a principal, I also mentored tons of people from my former doctoral program. They would come through and they would do, you had to do a certain amount of hours. And I just saw where that was incredibly important. Mentorships are where is a sweet spot. And it's something that I feel sometimes we don't pay enough attention to. Sometimes we just throw people into a field or a job or whatever it is that they're doing. And even as an author, I transitioned from being a principal into being an author, and I needed mentors, and I was really grateful for joining Word Weavers International, where it's like a group mentoring, and then you're mentored by the president of the organization. And then from that, I became a president, and then I became a mentor. So what is mentoring? It's a process of just informally learning through others. And it can be a one-on-one relationship. It can be developed organically. It could last months or years. Some of the authors, teachers, administrators that I work with, we've remained friends over the years. Even students. I have students that I had in pre-K. They have families of their own. Some of them became educators. One of the most powerful things that has ever happened are students who reached back and said, hey, I became a teacher because of you. There's nothing better. It's not because I'm all of that, but there was something in me where I was mentoring them as students where it touched their lives that much. And that's what we want. We want to be that mentor where people will remember that relationship for years and years. Even if it's a paid mentorship, so, there are paid mentorships. There's nothing wrong with that. But you want to know that this is not just about money. It's about people. It's about making that connection. It's about that organic learning. And I feel, as a Christian, especially, we should pour out. We should give more than we get. So even if someone is paying you, pour it all. Don't leave anything out. Pour it all out on that person. You will never lose by giving more than you should. I really believe that. So give. And one thing that binds people together, and we really saw that during COVID. It was, I don't know about you guys, but I was going stir crazy and I was so grateful for Zoom, because we have that innate craving to connect with one another. So whether you embrace like virtual mentoring or you are actually just physically meeting with someone, it's important for you to do. So I'm going to scroll down, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about the benefits that writing mentors provide. So mentors, number one, they encourage. And even if you are a seasoned author, it's important for you to also make sure that you have that mentor, that person who's encouraging you. I look at people like my pastor. My pastor's in his 60s, but he still has, he's admitting, I don't know it all. I need to be surrounded by an army of people who are sharpening me and encouraging me. And so I think that's healthy. And even if you become a mentor, make sure that you are also being filled. There's just that. And so mentors encourage. Writers, I don't know if you've noticed this, but we struggle with a lot of rejection and discouragement. Like, oh my gosh, I get rejections, but I'm like, wow, I don't even remember entering that or sending that proposal, but okay, another rejection. Okay. So it's important for us to encourage, and it's also important for us to push people through that writer's block and make sure that people are not giving up. So they provide encouragement, they provide accountability, because it takes a lot of self-discipline to stay on track. And then mentors provide professionalism, because they can often be that face you see between the publishing industry, between the publisher and the agent. And so you want someone who is going to be experienced. And can offer the author insights and guidance about publication. And so when I say guide professionalism, even though I'm doing most of my meetings in the house, I dress professionally. I treat my client, my mentee professionally. I don't show up, blowing bubbles and, in a holy t-shirt, that kind of thing. So professionalism. And then you also, by example, you are also guiding that other person toward professionalism. And so some of the benefits that mentors provide is they support growth. That's one thing that we always want to do. It's always disturbing to me to see someone who feels like they know it all, they've arrived, and they have nothing else to learn. That just disturbs me. I feel like while we're alive, we always have something to learn. They also serve as a source of knowledge. I'm constantly learning. I consider myself a lifelong student. So if I have a client that is maybe writing in a genre I'm not as familiar with, I'm all in learning about that genre and making sure that I can be a good resource for them. And so I don't pretend to know everything. And the other thing is I share a lot. I make sure if I have a client that doesn't know how to write a proposal, I'm sharing that with them. We're walking through it together, and I'm making sure that they are starting off their writing careers as powerfully as possible. I'll do mock 15-minute interviews, that kind of thing. If they're going to a conference and they have to pitch, that kind of thing. Mentors also help set goals, and that is super important for all of us to know what it is to set goals, to create, making sure that you create specific, achievable, time-based goals. Because the worst thing you could do is say, I'm going to finish my book someday. And so it's important for you to have time-based goals. And so again, that accountability and that encouragement. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, mentors should be willing to listen. One of the things that authors struggle with are our ideas. And, I know from experience, the family, the animals, they're not good enough to bounce that stuff against. We need someone who has an interest in the writing field, someone who's more objective, and that mentor can provide like unbiased advice or opinions regarding the ideas that this person has. Okay. And then mentors should be trusted allies. A mentor, you want to make sure that you are someone who's trustworthy. If you're looking for a mentor, you want to make sure that you are dealing with someone who keeps things confidential, because there's lots of sensitive things that happen in a writer's life, and we want to make sure that we're in a trusting environment and relationship. And of course, mentors provide constructive feedback. Constructive because we do need that critique part that often is hard to take, but not only are doing that, you want to also provide solutions, advise people on ways to improve. And because it's a professional relationship, if you're a mentor, you should pay an objective role, Don't just say, put something out there, but follow up with, here's what we can do for you to improve. And then mentors, they also create guidelines and expectations. So, if you're like, for instance, for the Florida Christian Writers Conference, I had several people that are mentoring, and I'm like, well, what's your end game? What do you want out of the conference? Well, I don't know. Okay, well, you got to think about it, because this is a huge investment. So think about, what do you want to come away from? So some people are like, I've been dreaming about pitching this book. Well, let's write the proposal. So now they're written their proposal. I'm like, you have a one sheet? Okay, let's get your one sheet together. Who do you want to see? Okay, let's practice your pitch session. So those are the kinds of things that you want to do. All right, I'm going to just take a moment here and see if anybody has any questions, anything that you'd like to throw in there. Maybe you have a suggestion.
Oh, lots of good comments just coming in. I know we had some discussion about the that working from a vacuum kind of feeling, like we shouldn't be working from a vacuum, and the mentors help with that. I know that I've certainly felt it too. Just that need, you if you don't have somebody to come alongside you and encourage you and help you and guide you through the writing journey, you can feel like you're stagnating. And
Yeah,
so I
yeah, it's true. It's
I
true.
definitely value
Mm-hmm,
mentors in that regard.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and so mentors, they're a valuable resource, and we know none of us are good at everything, right? So if you have someone that you're looking to who's really good at networking, or like Becky on here, she's really good, and so is Rachel. Um, they're good at putting people together, and it's nothing wrong with sitting down with someone like that. I'm like, how do you do that? What are the ways that you network? And networking, I'm sorry, mentorships, they don't always have to be paid. A lot of times they're not. That you can find temporary mentorships going to a conference, listening to a speaker, and just growing from that connection. Okay. And then mentors should, they should help you with connections. But I find that in the writers community, we're really generous to each other. I really love that. And I don't feel this crab in the barrel kind of mentality. And so in that mentor relationship, it's really important for us to be generous with the connections that we have. If you work with maybe you work with a publishing company and you're helping to edit this person's book, say, you know what, I'm going to let this person know I'm editing your book. I think you'd be a really good fit for them. Or, if you just tweak this on your Instagram platform, I think it would really increase if you could increase your numbers by joining some follow groups, checking out Healthy Faith Chat on Twitter. Sorry, it's a shameless plug and very sad, but there's that. So here are the types of mentorships, just really quick. We have traditional/hybrid. And traditional is it's more of a it's more adapted to incorporate more people to accommodate shorter mentoring cycles. Then you've got group mentoring. Even this could be considered a form of group mentoring. 540 is it's a great group mentoring program. Going to a writers conference, same thing. And you learn from the mentor and from each other as we share knowledge and experience. There's so many times I've gone to conferences and I've learned just as much from fellow attendees, where they talk to me about different podcasts, all of that good stuff, or different techniques, people to check out just from one-to-one contact with other conferees. Mentoring circles, those are informal programs which allow a peer-to-peer format. You could kind of look at Word Weavers International as something like that, where it's a critique circle and you have that peer-to-peer format. And there's not really a designated mentor. Maybe the president is facilitating everything. There's flash mentoring, that's session based, one-time mentoring, really low pressure. Sometimes that's even your 15-minute appointment. You may have an appointment to speak with a publisher or an agent or another author, like I was telling you about sitting down and speaking to Stephen James at a conference. That's a flash mentoring moment, where it's just session based. It's one time. It's not ongoing. I didn't feel any huge pressure. I wasn't pitching anything to him. Often, if you're going to a conference and you're nervous, do a flash mentoring to break the ice and get yourself ready to pitch something, because it gets you more comfortable, because it's just, all right, this is low pressure. I can just let my hair down and do this flash mentoring. See here. Also, mentors provide sounding boards. Like I said before, they give great advice. Hopefully they give great advice. So they can suggest professional development. It can help mentees establish goals, identify resources. Like I said, be be a resource for feedback on all kinds of things, proposals, one sheets, query letters, tips for acing a pitch, and constantly shares inspiration and encouragement. You don't want to be linked with a mentor. You don't want to be that mentor who's really a downer. So you want to constantly build that person up, act as a cheerleader, and also, like I said earlier, be generous with your connections. Make introductions when you can. God always, oh my gosh, he always blesses us when we're generous, right? Come on now. If you know Stephen King and you know he's looking for this author, don't hold back. Introduce them to Jerry B. Jenkins and Dallas Jenkins. Come on. And so what does a mentee do? So a mentee, they steer the relationship. They need to be really clear about what they're hoping to get out of this interaction, drive the conversation. They need to be mindful, be prepared, be on time, be professional, value the mentor, whether paid or unpaid. Know what it is to take and give constructive feedback. I can't say that enough. Authors who don't know how to take constructive feedback just don't grow. So it's important for you to be able to take constructive feedback. Even the best of them have editors. Everybody, think of your most prolific author, your favorite author. Know that they have an editor or had an editor, and so there's no way that you can grow without getting feedback. We can self-edit our stuff really effectively, but it is so important to take feedback and follow through. A mentee needs to follow through. That it doesn't take a lot to burn your bridges in the publishing industry. Sort of a small world. It's a big, small world. I like to think of it as, right? It seems huge, but I have to go into conferences and network and all that. You see that it's not that big of, so people are really connected. And so you want to establish yourself as someone who follows through, who is teachable, who is appropriate, and values that relationship in a respectful way. So any questions or feedback?
It's kind of a side trail. We've got a lot of comments going on about how awkward the term mentee sounds. It evokes a lot of fun thoughts in people's minds.
Fun conversation. Yeah. Yeah, mentee, mentor. I value being a mentee. I am really blessed to be mentored by some of the most powerful mentors in my life. Is Edwina Perkins, Edie Melson, Diana Mills, Cecil Murphy, very powerful, Eva Marie Everson, very powerful mentors in my life. And I consider myself a mentee, even though I'm working with people who I mentor. So, you remember, all of us, I feel we should both be mentor and mentee. Even if you feel you're just beginning, there's always someone who knows less than you. And so if you find a nugget, share the nugget. Always don't, even if you are meant, you feel like, oh man, I'm just starting out. Just know that you still have something to offer.
I agree with
then
that.
if you,
yeah. Well, I think sometimes we just don't even know what we know that other people don't know, if that makes sense. It's like, because something has just become so common to us, but there are a lot of people that it's not. They're new, they're just starting out. And we can remember that, that just everybody knows something that someone else can benefit from in this writing community, in this writing world.
Yeah. Even my husband is actually a mentor for me, because he knows a lot about the genre that I write in. He served in the DIA, which is like the CIA of the military. And so, and also people who worked in his industry, they are mentors for me, because I don't know anything about the intel agencies. I have no idea. So I vet everything through them. So they and often we overlook mentors, there are people in our lives, if there are things that we're writing about, we should be speaking to them about it. How are you writing a psychological thriller about a nurse and you don't even know a nurse? You should have someone in your life who is mentoring you, making sure that they're vetting what you write. I like to throw a lot of medical things in my writing, but I vet it through doctors. I make sure that it's realistic, and make sure they're mentoring me in that way. So these are things that I'm going to be sending in the handout anyway. But just really quick, you might say, how do I find a mentor? And there are plenty of things for you to look at, and I'll have other resources, because I have resources that you can go to and research on your own about finding the right person. Writing conferences are great. Once mentoring circles like Word Weavers are great ways to find people that you can connect with. Let's see here.
We did have a couple questions about that, finding a mentor if you desperately need one and there just doesn't seem to be anyone around, or there's no one local. But that's why we're really blessed to live in this era where we can do something like this, and you can connect with people online or through Zoom, and so it doesn't have to be someone that you're getting together with coffee. You can have a mentee relationship through Zoom or some program.
Yeah. And I do have resources for people to check out, but there are people on here that are great resources. 540, can't say enough about them. It's a great resource to find relationships where you can be mentored. Word Weavers International. We've got the pen, where if you're needing an editor or someone to help you with something, you can actually look up an editor, and they have so many, because an editor becomes a mentor, really. They're helping walk you through the process. They are coaching you, that kind of thing. So those are good places to look up, vetted people who are established in terms of finding a mentor. And like I said before, conferences, and now conferences, lots of them have virtual components to them. So you may not have to physically show up at a conference to meet people. You can actually network with people through virtual conferences. And then don't neglect like professional associations. Don't neglect nonprofit organizations. I'm in a couple of nonprofits. I serve on a board for a few, and I volunteer a lot. And so those are great places to be a mentor, and to find mentors, and to be a mentee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So really quick, if you're asking, you may be on your way to there's a writers conference you're on your way to, and you're nervous. You want to ask someone to be your mentor. Do it. Schedule a meeting with them. They're people. I mean, come on. They drool on themselves when they sleep, just like you. So schedule a meeting. Explain why you're seeking a mentorship. Explain why you selected them. And if the person seems uncomfortable or skeptical, don't take it personal. Just move on to the next person. You want to find someone who's going to be just as into you. Okay, so that's it. If people have any questions, I'd love to.
Yeah. All right. So if y'all want to pop back in for just a couple minutes, and if anyone has any questions they want to ask in person, we can do that. We are going to be able to put this document in the Facebook group, so you all will be able to read it through. So Katherine, if you could there you go, unshare the screen, and then we'll have people pop in. And anyone have any questions or comments? This is your chance about thrillers or mentorship. Hey, Isabel. Katherine, tell us again the name of your podcast.
It's called Murder, Mystery, and Mayhem Laced with Morality.
I love it. I am definitely going to
Yeah, yeah. Linda Goldfarb helped. Oh, that's another person who is a great mentor. I love her as a mentor regarding podcasts. She helped me come up with a name when I took a class of hers on podcasting, and there a star was born. That podcast is now like 3 years in the making. This October 31st. I cannot believe it. I'm so blessed. I'm so grateful to God. I have more than enough material to take me into February right now. I'm that booked.
Wow.
And and now I'm on the list of, I have publicists, people who own they're publicists. And so I'm now representing like their entire list of authors. So that is super fun to have these podcasts. And some of the people come on, I'm like, oh, I didn't know they were a big deal. Like they have like a whole movie coming out. So it's humbling.
That's terrific. Well, yeah, if you're interested in writing thrillers, then I suggest that we all go and listen to that. That's pretty cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Does anyone?
And it's all about the journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
On that podcast, it's all about the writing journey. Even if you're not a thriller or suspense person, not all my authors write thriller or suspense.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. Any questions from anybody? All right. Melissa, next week we're going to be doing
Well, we're still in the discussion phases of it, but the general gist is going to be how to form your own brainstorming think tank with a group of writers. So
when I saw
that's what we're going to chat about.
Yeah, I thought, oh my gosh, Melissa sent out an email and I don't think I responded to it. So I've got a deadline. So I have been just like, and not paying attention to my email. Okay.
I had one question. Just when you had said that, is that the brainstorming, is that an example of like a flash mentorship where you just say, I need 3 hours?
Are you asking? Who are you asking?
Yeah, I was asking you, Kat.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Yes, that's a great example of flash mentoring. And that, super, wow, great. A+. That's exactly it. Mm-hmm.
So overcoming, if somebody were to ask me, can you have 5 hours at one time? I'd find it, like just me, I like do that, but isn't that overwhelming? How do you overcome that when you say, hey, I need 3 to 4 hours? Like that's a real thing for me. I need 3 to 4 hours at one time with a few breaks to sort of wrap my head around a big project. And right now I've got a mess of my pieces of scenes, like in 3 books sort of scattered everywhere, and I'm trying to sort them. Does that seem overwhelming, or how can you overcome that when you approach people to say, boy, can you spend a whole day all day with me? What things can you give back? How can you sweeten that we're going to work together kind of thing, so you don't just go, oh, I don't have time.
Yeah, so it's really important for a mentor to know what they're getting into, and then it's different. Sometimes if it's paid, people are like, the more hours, the better. So there's that. The money is always an incentive, but if it's not a paid thing, well, you will make sure that that you also help that mentee by writing. Okay, this is something really important. Writing an endorsement for someone is gold. It is golden. And say, hey, I'm going to, you have a website, you could say, I would love to feature you on my website. That's also golden. I'd love to do a feature for you. I would love to take whatever it is, their business, like for instance, mentors, editors, and all of that stuff. A lot of us, it's word of mouth. And so that's very important to us. If you do a blast for them, that is so important. That's golden. And then, like I said before, writing a great endorsement for them. is incredible, like gold. Yeah. A year worth of Starbucks doesn't hurt, but you know.
Yeah.
Bring the gift cards on. A card.
Yeah.
I am so corny. I treasure my handwritten cards. I'm so nerdy. I love to see people's personal handwriting in a card. It means a lot to me. So things like a handwritten note, I don't even know if people are going to be able to know how to write anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something
True.
that's
I like that too. Yeah,
handwritten.
it's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to wrap up. We invite you to stay around for the after party. If you are joining us by watching the replay, I invite you to join us here any Tuesday morning, 11 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Central, and find your time zone around the world. My mind just went blank. The videos will be up of this episode will be up later this afternoon. You can find all of our episodes on the Facebook page, it's Writers Chat Facebook page, or the Writers Chat Writers Chat members Facebook group, and we invite you to join that as well. So stick around, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.